8-2 day 2. Factoring out a monomial. What is a simpler form of this expression? This I just want you to distribute. So if we distribute the 5n to all three parts, we'd have 5n times 3n to the third, which would be 15n to the fourth. Remember, this is n to the first, n to the third. We have all together, we have n to the fourth. This times negative 1n squared is negative 5, the number, times the number, n to the first times n to the second, n to the third. And then take the 5n times our 8. So 8 times 5 is 40n. So if we distribute the 5n in there, that is what we have. What we're going to try to do is the opposite. Instead of distributing something in, we're going to look for the greatest common factor and take it out. So if we look at this, what is the greatest common factor of 5x to the third plus 25x squared plus 45x? Well, let's just write them out kind of in prime factorization. So 5 I can't break down. 5 is just going to be 5. And then we have x times x times x, or x to the third. 25 can be broken down into 5 times 5. And we have x times x. And 45 is 5 times 9, which actually will be 5 times, I'm going to break that 9 up into 3 times 3. And then x. So we're looking for things that we have in common in all three monomials. So there's 5s in all three of them. And there's only one x here. So the most x's I can take out are just 1. So my greatest common factor, I have a 5 in all of them, and I just have 1 x. So that's the greatest common factor of that expression. That means I can take 5x out of each of them. So if I think of that, it's like dividing every single part by 5x and seeing what we have left over. So I took out 5x. So if I divide the first term by 5x, the 5's cancel out to reduce to be 1. I would be left with x squared. The second one I would have 5 would cancel and make this a 5. This x would cancel with one of those x's and leave me 5x. And then 5 times 9 is 45, and x divided by x disappears. So that is the unit with the greatest common factor taken out. So let's look here. What's the greatest common factor of the terms 3x to the fourth minus 9x squared minus 12x? I know that 3, 9, and 12 are all divisible by 3, and I can't get anything bigger out of 3 than 3. So I know it's going to be 3. And then I look and I see I have x to the fourth in the first term. I have x to the second one, and I just have one lonely x in the third term. So the most I can get out is 3x. Now we could have written them all again, like 3x to the fourth would be 3 times x times x times x. 9 would be negative 3 times 3 x, and negative 12x would have just been negative 3 times 2 times 2 times x. So again, if we would have written them out, which you can if that makes it easier, you see all of them have a 3 and an x in them. I can move this negative to one of the other numbers. It doesn't have to be negative on the 3. So I could have had actually 3 times negative 2 times negative 2. So there's my 3x in all of them. If I do that, I factor that out, I would have in the first term, the 3's, oh, sorry, I forgot to put my x there, 3x. 3's cancel out. X to the fourth divided by x leaves me x to the third minus 9x squared divided by 3x. 3 and the 9 cancel out, making a 3. My x cancels with one of my x's in the numerator, so it's minus 3x. And then I have minus 12 divided by 3 reduces to be 4. And x over x, the x's cancel each other out. They reduce to be 1 because x divided by x is 1. So there is our factored form. Now factor this, actually, we just did that. So what's the greatest common factor of the terms? The greatest common factor is 3x. And with it factored out, that could be down here. So 3x, that's what we just did. X to the third minus 3x minus 4. How can you be sure if you're right? You could try distributing it and going back to check it. So if I wanted to check it, I would do this, 3x to the fourth minus 9x squared minus 12x. So that's the way you check it, is you distribute the greatest common factor back into the term and see if you get what you started with. So again, just another one. Our numbers 4, 20, negative 24, and 8 all are numbers that are divisible by 4. So I know I can take out a 4. The most x's I can get out, because they all have x's, but I can only get one x out because this last term, 8x, only has one x in it. So I am going to divide everything by 4x. And if I do that, my 4's cancel out in the first term. My x cancels with one of the x's in the numerator and leaves me with x to the fourth minus 6x squared plus 2. That would be my factored form. You put me on pause and you try this one and come back when you're done. You should have 3x squared as your greatest common factor that we factored out, and then times the quantity 3x to the fourth plus 5x to the second plus 4. Another one for you to try, put me on pause and come back when you think you have it. This one you had to be a little careful. I factored out a negative 6x squared. So if I take the negative 6x squared out, divide by negative 6x squared, that first term is going to be positive x squared. If I divide this by a negative, we're also going to get a positive number, and same with the third term. Because we're dividing it all by negative, so they all should be positive. So negative 6x squared is the factor I got out, the greatest common factor, and then that is times the quantity x squared plus 3x plus 2. Factor the following polynomial. Hopefully you can look at this and see they both have just an n in common, and if I take out an n, I have n plus, please don't just say n, it's n plus 1 because we have n divided by n, which is 1. That's it for this section. There is a worksheet that you should have you could be working on.